Pride and Prejudice. In an era when marrying a rich man was the most a woman could hope for, Elizabeth Bennet was way ahead of her time. From Jane Austen, the beloved author of Emma and Sense and Sensibility. The story of a modern woman who discovered the one person she cannot stand is the one man she may not be able to resist. Pride and Prejudice.
You're very punctual to your time, I see. Very glad indeed. Delighted to have the pleasure of receiving you here at Longbourn, the Bennets of Longbourn, eh? Pray allow me to make you acquainted with some of my daughters. Come along, Jane. Miss Jane Bennet.
The eldest, though I cannot see why she must always have the chair nearest the window. Hush, Lydia. And the prettiest of all.
Mary, for goodness sake.
The next, Elizabeth.
Wittiest of all, the Captain Tally of the regiment expressed her to be the most critical young lady in all Hertfordshire.
In the only complete sentence I've ever heard him construct.
Blah.
And book in hand as always, Mary.
The proudest? Pride is a very common failing, I believe, by all that I have ever read. I'm convinced that it's very common indeed, that there are very few of us who do not share some feeling of self-complacency, of some quality or other, real or imaginary.
And last,
pride and vanity are different things, so the words are often used synonymously. A person may be proud without being vain.
Aye.
Pride relates more to our feelings of ourselves, vanity to what we have others think of us.
Yes, quite so. The two youngest, of course, Kitty and Lydia.
Oh, to be only the youngest. Have we no qualities?
We are the best dancers with the prettiest hats.
And sing most charmingly. Well, I do. My dear Mr. Page.
Miss Bennet, to be sure.
My dear Mr. Bennet, have you heard that Netherfield Park has been let at last?
I'm not.
Oh, but it is, for Mrs. Long was just there and she told me all about it.
Probably an elderly bachelor with a King Charles Spaniel.
Indeed, but you not want to know who is taking it, Mr. Bennet?
You want to tell me and I have no objection to hearing it?
Mrs. Long says that it has been taken by a young man of a large fortune.
Really?
Yes, that he came down on Monday and was so taken with it that he is to take possession before Michaelmas.
Married or single?
We might first inquire the gentleman's name.
Bingley.
But married or single?
Oh, single to be sure, my dears. A single man of a large fortune, 4,000 or 5,000 a year.
It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of good fortune must be in want of a wife.
Albert does know the feelings or views of such a man may be. This truth is so well fixed in the minds of the surrounding families that he is considered the rightful property of someone, or others, of their daughters.
Oh dear, hush, Lizzie. What a fine thing for our girls.
How so?
Then he won't marry one of us, Papa.
Is that his design is settling here?
Design? Nonsense, but it is not unusual that a young man may fall in love.
Though he must be a soldier in a red regimental jacket.
You must visit him as soon as he comes.
See no occasion for that. You the girls may go. Or perhaps send the girls by themselves, which perhaps would still be better for you as handsome as any of them. Mr. Bingley might like you best at the party.
Well, I do have my own fair share of beauty. But when a woman has 5 daughters of her own, she ought to give over her own ideas of her own attractions.
In such cases, a woman has not often much beauty to think of.
Oh, but consider your daughters. Think what an establishment it would be for one of them. You must go, but it would be impossible for us to go if you do not.
You're a scrupulous shadow. I'll send a few lines by you to assure him of my hearty consent in his marrying whichever he chooses.
Oh, Mr. Bennet, you take delight in vexing me. You have no compassion on my poor nerves.
My lady, I have the highest respect for your nerves, for they are my old friends.
You do not know what I suffer.
But I hope you get over it and see many young men of 4,000 or 5,000 a year come into the neighborhood.
It should be no use to us if 20 should come, since we are not to visit them.
When there are 20, I will visit them all.
Despite his protestations, Papa was among the earliest of those who waited on Mr. Bingley.
Capital, Lydia. Hope Mr. Bingley will like it.
We are not in the way to know what Mr. Bingley likes, since we are not to visit him.
It isn't fair, Papa. It really isn't.
You forget we shall meet him at the assemblies, and Mrs. Long has promised to introduce him to us.
I don't believe that Mrs. Long will do any such thing. She has two nieces of her own.
And plain as cake. Both of them.
She is a selfish and hypocritical woman, and I have no opinion of her.
Let us return to Mr. Bingley.
Oh, and I dare say I am sick of Mr. Bingley.
My dear, why did you not tell me so before? If I had known as much this morning, I certainly wouldn't have.
Oh, called on him! Truly, father? Oh, now see, girls, what an excellent father you have. But I knew I should persuade you at last.
Yes, I fear that as I've actually paid the visit, you cannot escape the point of the time.
Come, Darcy. I hate to see you standing about by yourself in this stupid manner. You'd much better dance.
You know how I detest it, unless I'm particularly acquainted with my partner. Your sister is engaged, and there's not another woman in the room whom it would be a punishment to me to stand up with.
I'd not be so fastidious as you are for a kingdom. I've never met with so many pleasant girls in all my life, and several so uncommonly pretty.
Your partner, the eldest Miss Bennet, is the only handsome girl in the room.
Indeed, the most beautiful creature I've ever beheld. But there is one of her sisters, just there, who I dare say is very agreeable. Allow me to ask my partner to introduce you.
She is tolerable, but that is insufficient to get me. Pray return to your dancing, you're wasting your time.
Oh, we have a most excellent ball, Mr. Bennet. Jane is so admired, and Mr. Bingley danced with her twice. And then the third he turned to Miss King, the fourth with Maria Lucas, the fifth with Jane again, and the sixth
If he had
with...
any compassion for me at all, he wouldn't have danced half as much.
He is just what a young man ought to be. Sensible, good-humoured, lively, and I never saw such happy manners. So much ease, such perfect good breeding.
He is also handsome, but young man should be if he possibly can.
I can hardly explain to you the shocking rudeness of Mr. Darcy.
Then how wise not to try, my love.
I was very much flattered by his asking me to dance at such a time. I did not expect such a compliment.
Did not you? Compliments always take you by surprise, and me never.
I can assure you, Lizzie loses nothing in not suiting that Mr. Darcy's fancy, for he's a disagreeable and horrid man.
Tall, terribly tall.
You're a great deal too apt to like people in general. You never see a fault in anybody. I swear, Jane, I've never heard you speak ill of another human being in my life.
I would not wish to be hasty in censuring anyone.
Your Mr. Darcy is so high and conceited that there is no enduring him. Lizzie not handsome enough to dance with? Oh, I quite detest the man.
I always speak what I think.
With your good sense, be so honestly blind to the follies and nonsense of others.
Miss Bennet, I would request a stroll up the room.
Within a short walk of Longbourn, there lived a family with whom we were particularly intimate.
Sir William Lucas, formerly in trade in Meryton, had made a tolerable fortune and risen to the honour of knighthood.
And gives 2 balls a season.
And Lady Lucas was a very kind woman and not too clever, which I find restful.
And the daughter Charlotte is my particular friend. Truly, an assembly ball is a paradise to me.
Occupied as you are, Miss Bingley's attentions to your sister, I don't think you seem to become, shall I say, an object of it.
Indeed. Where?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to all my hearth and home. What a charming meal at the open of the lands, eh? I consider it one of the first refinements of polished society.
Any savage can dance, sir.
Ah, wit, sir. Wit indeed.
Do you not notice that Mr. Darcy seems always on the fringes of your conversation?
Mrs. Long told me last night he sat close to her for a half hour without once opening his lips.
Miss Bingley told me that he never speaks much unless among his intimate acquaintances.
You waste the ball in idle chatter.
Note him.
He has an extremely critical eye, and if I him by being impertinent myself. I shall soon grow afraid of him. Do you not think, Mr. Darcy, I expressed myself uncommonly well just now, when I was teasing Colonel Paulson to give us a ball and married him?
With great energy, but it is a subject which always makes a lady reject.
My dear Eliza, why are you not dancing? Mrs. Darcy, you are used to dance, I'm sure, such beautiful.
Indeed, sir, I have not the least intention of dancing. I entreat you not to suppose I move this way in order to beg for a partner.
Might I have the honour of your hand in the next instance?
Mr. Darcy is all politeness, but I must deny myself the pleasure.
Mrs. Darcy, I can guess the subject of your reverie.
I should imagine not.
You are considering how insupportable it would be to pass many evenings in just such a society. And indeed, I'm quite of your opinion.
La, I once wore a gown with 12 ribbons and a couple of rosettes.
Stupidity, the noise and nothingness, and yet the self-importance of all these people. What I would give to wear strictures on them.
Your conjecture is totally wrong, I assure you.
Oh?
I've been meditating on the very great pleasure which a pair of fine eyes in the face of a woman can bestow.
Surely, pray, tell me which lady has the credit of inspiring such reflections.
Miss Elizabeth Bennet.
I must confess, I'm all astonishment. How long has she been such a favorite? And pray, when am I to wish you joy?
I expected as much. A lady's imagination is very rapid. It jumps from admiration to love to matrimony in a moment.
I shall consider the matter as absolutely settled.
Indeed, your road is scam so real. Oh, you original!
And you will have a charming mother-in-law indeed. And you will have the pleasure of her always being familiar with you.
Mr. Bennet, you must come and hear this mysterious fellow saying.
Great giving the appearance of almost attention. Dr. Request is real.
Indeed, sir, it's rather an honor than a request.
The honor I believe to be mine.
It seems that Jane is quite admired.
Noticeably, I would agree.
Really likes your sister, nobody more than like her. She's not helping it.
Oh, but she does help him on as much as her nature will allow.
Remember, Eliza, he does not know James' disposition to you. Though they meet hardly often, it's not for many hours together. So she must command his attention whenever she can.
Your plan is a good one when nothing is in question but the determination to get a result. These are not Jane's feelings, and she has no such design. She takes time, I think, to study his character.
Well, I wish to set it all my heart that she married him tomorrow. I believe she'd have enough happiness to keep studying this character for 12 months. It's better to know as little possible defects with her. From your past, your life.
You make me laugh, Charlotte. It is not sound, and you know full well you never act in this way yourself.
You are being watched.
Soon enough, at Longbourn, Jane found herself in receipt of an invitation from...
My dear friend, if you are not so compassionate as to dine today with me,
We shall be in danger of hating each other for the rest of our lives. Come as soon as you can on receipt of this, and we shall dine with my brother, as well as other gentlemen and sundry officers.
yours ever,
Caroline Bingley.
With the officers. I pity I do as well, Mamma.
We should like to meet sundry officers.
I was saying that there was but one name on that invitation.
May I have the carriage, Father?
Of course.
Oh, indeed not. For it would be much better, Jane, for you to go on horseback. For the weather looks ill, and you might have the good fortune to be thoroughly soaked and stay longer with the Bingleys in ill health.
Mamma's hopes were answered. Jane had not been gone long when it rained torrents.
That was a lucky idea of mine indeed.
For you, Liz, from Netherfield, we think.
My dearest Lizzie,
I find myself rather unwell this morning, which I suppose is to be imputed by my getting wet through yesterday. The Bingleys will not hear of my returning home until I am better.
though excepting a sore throat and a headache, there's not much the matter with me. Yours, Jane.
Well, my dear, if your daughter should have the dangerous fit of illness and die, it would be a comfort to know it's all in this pursuit of Mr. Bingley and under your orders.
Nonsense. People do not die of trifling little colds. And the inconvenience, my dear Mr. Bennet, is worth the price.
She feels ill and I will go to her.
This is a hint, Lizzie, for me to send for the horses.
Nonsense. The horses are wanted in the farm. I will walk. The distance is nothing when one has a motive. Only 3 miles.
Lizzie, you cannot go jumping over stiles and arrive in dirty stockings.
Jane, at least, will forgive me, mother.
Mr. Bennet!
So Elizabeth, how remarkable you could come.
A pleasure, of course, Mr. Bingley. You can imagine my sister's letter gave me some cause for concern.
Indeed, I wish I could answer that concern more favorably. Your sister has slept ill, and though up is not well enough to be converted. I'll take you to her.
Lizzie! Jane, you are flushed. Should not you be in bed?
You've sent for the apothecary. I'd be most grateful, Miss Elizabeth, if you would remain here at Netherfield until your sister is quite well.
Yes, do stay.
I'll send a servant to acquaint your family and return with any necessities.
Mr. Bingley, I cannot attempt to thank you.
Any thanks are far beyond the occasion, Miss Bennet. Believe me, I have no pleasure in life greater than that of contributing to yours.
Well, he is
Most attentive.
Indeed he is. You look quite drawn, Jane, but I must say it serves you exactly for falling in with Mother's advice.
Lizzie, how did you get here?
The horses were wanted in the farm, so I walked.
Through the mud?
Through the mud, yes.
To walk 3 miles, or 4 miles, or 5 miles, or whatever it is, above her ankles in mud, and alone, quite alone. What could she mean by it? It seems to me to show an abominable sort of conceited independence and complete indifference to decorum.
Jane's affection for her sister was very pleasing.
I have an excessive regard for Jane Bennet, and I do wish you were well settled. But with such a father and mother, with such low connections, one could not expect much better.
If they had uncles enough to rule Cheapside, it not make them one jot less agreeable. Ah, Miss Bennet, a pleasure. Your sister improves, I hope.
She is resting, but hopes not to be thought unassociable.
Indeed not. I find it singular and intriguing that you prefer reading to cards, Miss Bennet.
Miss Elizabeth Bennet despises cards. She's a great reader, with little interest in anything else.
I deserve neither such praise nor such censure. I am not a great reader, and I find pleasure in many things.
And no son of your sister you have pleasure, I'm sure.
Hear, hear.
Is Miss Darcy much grown since the spring? Oh, how I long to see your charming sister again. Such manners, and so accomplished for her age.
It's remarkable to me how young ladies have the patience to be so very accomplished as they all are.
I fear I cannot boast of knowing more than half a dozen in the whole range of my acquaintance that are really accomplished.
Then you must comprehend a great idea, a great much in your idea of an accomplished woman.
She must have a thorough knowledge of music, singing, drawing, dancing, languages, a certain something in her air and manner, tone of voice, expressions and address, or the word will be half deserved.
And to all this, she must yet add something more substantial in the improvement of her mind by extensive reading.
I'm no longer surprised at your knowing only 6 accomplished women. I rather wonder now at your knowing any.
I say, sister, would you perhaps take the pianoforte in favor of a lively Scotch air?
Splendid, and perhaps Miss Bennet will seize the opportunity to show us a fling, simple seeming yet difficult in the execution. Will you essay, Miss Bennet?
Oh, I heard you before. You wanted me to say yes, I know, that you might have the pleasure of despising my tastes. But I always delight in choosing a person of a premeditated contempt. I have therefore made my mind to tell you, I do not want to dance a reel at all. Now despise me if you dare.
Very sorry, Darcy.
Is Mr. Darcy not to be laughed at?
The wisest and best of men may be rendered ridiculous by a person whose first object in life is a joke.
Certainly there are such people, but I hope I'm not one of them. I hope I never ridicule what is wise and good. Follies and nonsense, whims and inconsistencies do divert me, I own, and I laugh at them whenever I can. But these, I suppose, are precisely what you are without.
Perhaps that is not possible for anyone, but it has been the study of my life to avoid those weaknesses which often expose a strong understanding to ridicule.
Such as vanity and pride?
Yes, vanity is a weakness indeed, but pride, where there's a real superiority of the mind. Pride will always be under good regulation. I have faults enough, but they are not, I hope, of understanding. My temper I dare not vouch for. It is, I believe, too little yielding and perhaps resentful. My good opinion once lost is lost forever.
That is a failing indeed. But you are safe from me. I really cannot laugh at it.
There is, I believe, in every disposition a tendency to some particular evil, a natural defect which even the best of education cannot overcome.
And your defect is a propensity to hate everybody.
And yours is willfully to misunderstand them.
On Sunday, the carriage was sent, and Jane and Elizabeth returned home. Mamma, I fear, was not very cordial to them.
I cannot understand for the life of me why you, Elizabeth, had to rush Jane home.
I wasn't rushing, Mamma.
I, for one, am gratified. Our evening conversation had lost much of its animation in almost all its sense.
Mr. Bennett! Oh, who?
My dear, I hope you've ordered a good dinner for tonight, for I have reason to expect in addition to our family party.
Is it Mr. Bingley? Oh, why, Jane, you sly thing. You never mentioned a word of it.
It is not Mr. Bingley. It is my cousin, Mr. Collins, who, when I'm dead, may turn you all out of this house as soon as he pleases.
But why, Papa?
It is the intel, Kitty. The intel which I constantly remind you. The inheritance of my property is limited to male heirs, and I have produced none. Mr. Collins has become the legal recipient.
Do not talk of that odious man, that odious legality. It is just monstrous, Mr. Bennet, that your estate be entailed away from your own children.
Mr. Collins was punctual to his time.
Ah, Mrs. Bennet, Mr. Bennet. As a pastor of the Church of England, I flatter myself that my present overtures of goodwill are highly commendable, and that the circumstance of my being next in the entail of the long-born estate will be kindly overlooked on your part and not lead you to reject my proffered olive branch. As for your daughters, I have heard much of their beauty, but I am afraid in the instance fame has fallen short of the truth, and I do not think them to be well disposed of, as I might say, in marriage.
Indeed, sir, I hope it may be true with all my heart, for else they will be destitute and none.
I am very sensible, madam, of the hardships of my fair cousins, but I can assure the young ladies that I come prepared to admire them. At the moment I will not say more, but perhaps we are better acquainted. Thus, in conclusion, I may say that having a good house and good living as a clergyman, I intend to marry, and in reconciliation with your family, I propose to choose one of your daughters. Surely you will agree that this atonement is an excellent one, both disinterested and generous on my part.
Oh, indeed.
I very much approve your eldest.
Jane.
Jane, yes. I can see her both fetching and decorous. She can do quite nicely, and seniority must be served.
Sir, concerning my youngest daughters, I cannot but take it upon myself to say, I know of no predispositions, but concerning my eldest daughter...
Jane?
Jane.
Jane.
Yes. I feel it quite incumbent upon myself to say that she is very likely soon to be engaged.
I see. And the next age?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, yes. Very forthright, not all presentable.
Oh, done!
To escape Mr. Collins' lectures,
From the high quality and moral fitness of the passion of the Church of England,
I suggested a stroll to Meryton.
I suppose I'm a better walker than talker.
Indeed, one must first learn that the highest laws for the governance of Christian duty.
and no sooner had I arrived at the regimental trunk tree than 3 ensigns bowed all at once.
And learn from within, not from without.
And all 3 asked me to walk after them.
That no man can become a faithful servant solely by obedience to his edict, and so the principles elucidated.
La, said I am but one young lady, as you can plainly, when we soon espied. Oh, yoo-hoo! A newly arrived officer of the regiment, yoo-hoo! Gentleman-like appearance, she was introduced to us by an officer already of our
acquaintance as?
Mr. Wickham. His appearance was greatly in his favour. He had all the best parts of beauty, a fine countenance, a good figure, very pleasing address.
How do you do? This is a lucky chance indeed. At the officers' table, the Bennets are much spoken of, and all of it approbation. Miss Catherine and Miss Lydia, are you not? Wrong way around?
Quite topsy-turvy.
Profoundly sorry. Might I be correct in guessing you as Miss Elizabeth Bennet?
Yes, quite correct.
I solicit your further acquaintance.
Our society, sir, is extensive. I venture we shall meet again.
La, we were talking oh so very agreeably when the sound of horses drew our notice.
And Mr. Bingley and Darcy came riding by.
Mr. Darcy hardly touched his hat, which Miss Wickham hardly deigned to pretend.
What could be the meaning of it?
Before walking on, we naturally joined Mr. Wickham to pay us a visit.
With a very great pleasure indeed. I fear we poor souls in the army lack greatly in feminine instruction. Miss Elizabeth?
Mr. Wickham. La, but our sister has been office.
Lydia.
I am very fortunate in my patroness, the non-real Lady Catherine de Bourgh, who has condescended to take me in hand. What beauty, what elevated style and affability. She is, of course, the proprietress of Rosings in a very, 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 very expensive property. Her daughter is in different health and happily has prevented her from being in town, which, as I told Lady Catherine myself one day, has deprived the British court of its brightest ornament.
Absolutely splendid.
Mr. Wickham has arrived.
Mr. George Wickham, Papa. Please.
Delighted.
Parson Collins, Mr. Wickham.
Always a pleasure to meet a gentleman of the cloth. I had a near miss myself.
As Mr. Collins once again brought forth.
I have more than once observed Lady Catherine that her charming daughter being born to be a duchess, and that the most elevated ranking it could do, instead of bringing her consequence, should be adorned by her. But to be brief.
Please excuse my temerity in accepting your sister's kind invitation with an almost unbecoming alacrity.
It is a great kindness to seek us out. The regiment, I hear, is not unhappily quartered here.
I cannot speak for the regiment, but may I say that I am personally improved by acquaintance with your family?
Of course, see, very prettily put.
And sincerely meant.
I could not help but noticing, sir, a certain coolness of regard passing between yourself and Mr. Darcy.
Ah, you have a keen eye, Miss Bennet.
A very curious one, sir.
Might you tell me how far Netherfield is from Meryton?
3 miles, perhaps.
Indeed. And how long has Mr. Darcy been staying there?
About a month. He is a man of very large property in Derbyshire, I understand.
His estate there is a noble one. In fact, I've been connected with his family from my infancy. Are you much acquainted with him?
I spent 4 days in the same house with him, and I find him to be very disagreeable.
I believe your opinion of him would in general astonish.
Really? He is not at all liked in Hertfordshire.
May I express surprise? The world is perhaps blinded by his fortune and consequence, and sees him only as he chooses to be seen.
I should take him even on my slight acquaintance as an ill-tempered man.
I fear I have considerable knowledge of him. The late Mr. Darcy, his father, was excessively attached to me. I cannot do justice to his kindness. His son and I were born in the same parish, sharing the same amusements. My father was his father's estate manager. Now, the elder Mr. Darcy knew the church should be my profession, and promised me the family and parish, when it became available, or if not, a voluntary promise of providing for me. Both of which were countermanded by the young Darcy after his father's death.
On what grounds?
Had the late Mr. Darcy liked me less, his son might have borne with me better. But his father's uncommon attachment to me irritated him. He had not the temper to bear the sort of competition in which we stood. In short, his behavior to me has been scandalous. But I do not trust myself on the subject. I can hardly be fair to him now.
I had not thought Mr. Darcy as bad as this.
I do feel that almost all of his actions can be traced back to his considerable pride.
But can such an abominable pride ever done him any good?
I must own him to be liberal and generous, assist his tenants, relieve the poor, show hospitality, but Family pride and filial pride have done this. His father's preference for me has pricked that pride and made him my enemy.
I'm astonished at his intimacy with Mr. Bingley. Do you know him?
No, not at all.
He is a well-mannered, charming, amiable young man. He cannot know what Mr. Darcy is.
Mr. Darcy can please where he chooses. He does not want abilities.
It is my judgment he deserves to be publicly disgraced.
Someday and somehow he will be, but it will not be by me. Might I say, Miss Bennet, that the troubling aspect of our conversation is not going to be a bit less delightful.
I suppose the relationship you have described will prevent your presence at the upcoming ball at Netherfield.
I fear discomfort for all involved, but make a mistake this time. I keenly feel once.
Well, whatever he said was well said. Whatever he did was done gracefully.
But, dear sister, I am all astonished and concerned. I know not how to believe Mr. Darcy would be so unworthy of Mr. Bingley's regard.
I can much more easily believe Mr. Bingley's being imposed upon than Mr. Wickham would admit such a history of himself.
But it is so distressing. One does not know what to think.
I beg your pardon, one knows exactly what to think.
I know only with certainty that poor Mr. Bingley would have much to suffer if Wickham's charge becomes public.
Poor Mr. Bingley?
I speak only as an observer.
Back at home, Mr. Bingley and his sister came to extend their personal invitation for the long-expected ball at Netherfield, which was fixed for the following Tuesday. While Mr. Collins...
I am by no means of the opinion, I assure you, that a ball of this kind, given by a young man of character, can have any evil tendency. And I'm so far from objecting to dancing myself that I take this opportunity, Miss Elizabeth, of soliciting the first two dancers with you especially.
It had struck me that I had been selected from among my sisters as worthy of becoming the mistress of Hansford Parsonage.
I perceive that Elizabeth still longs to see Mr. Wickham among those assembled.
Seeking the compliment of all that remain unsubdued of his heart.
I might title them dances of mortification.
Might I have the honour of your hand for the next, Miss Bennet?
Well, I hardly think that.
Do not be a simpleton, while your fancy for Mr. Wickham make you seem unpleasant in the eyes of men 10 times its consequence.
Well then.
Music is well played, do you not think? It's your turn to say something now, Mr. Darcy. I have talked about the dance. You may remark about the size of the room or number of couples.
I quite assure you that whatever you wish me to say will be said.
Very well, that reply will do for the present. Now we may be silent.
You always talk by the rule when you are dancing.
I have always, Mr. Darcy, seen a great deal of similarity between our minds. We're each of an unsocial, taciturn disposition, unwilling to speak unless we expect to say something that will amaze the whole room and be handed down to posterity or the eclat of the proverb.
This is no very striking resemblance to your character. How near it may be to mine, I cannot pretend to say.
I have recently had the pleasure of forming a new acquaintance with a childhood friend of yours, a Mr. Wickham.
Mr. Wickham is blessed with such happy manners which may ensure his having friends. How equally capable he is of maintaining them is less certain.
He's been so lucky as to lose your friendship, and in a manner which he's likely to suffer from all his life.
What think you of books, Miss Elizabeth?
I could not talk of books in a ballroom. My head is full of something else. I remember hearing you say, Mr. Darcy, that your resentment, once created, was unappeased. You're very careful to its being created.
I am.
And never allow yourself to be blinded by prejudice.
May I ask to what these questions tend?
Leading to the illustration of your character. I'm trying to make it out.
And what is your success?
I do not get on at all. I hear such different accounts of you as a puzzle me exceedingly.
I can readily believe that reports may vary greatly with respect to me, and I could wish, Miss Bennet, that you would not sketch my character at present, as there is reason to fear that the performance would reflect no credit on either.
Ah, Mr. Darcy. You are, if I'm not mistaken, the nephew of my eminent patroness, Lady Catherine A. Berg, who provided for me the living at Hunsford Parsonage, thus allowing me to consider the clerical office that equal-pointed dignity with that of the highest rank in the kingdom, provided that a proper humility of living is at the same time maintained.
You have neglected your name, sir.
Have I?
You have?
Mr. Collins, sir.
Delighted.
Excellent, both excellent. I have no reason, I thought you to be dissatisfied with my reception. He answered me with the utmost civility, and upon the whole I am much pleased with him.
Though he neglected his name.
Did he?
Miss Eliza, I hear you're quite delighted with George River. Oh yes, your sister Jane is talking. Did you know he's the son of the Scottish steward?
I believe he so said it.
Let me recommend you, brother, as a friend, not to give him his confidence for all his services. After starting to in the mill, it's perfectly false, for, on the contrary, he has always been remarkably kind to him. Well, George River has beautiful class, the most infamous man. I do not know the particulars, but his claim to the country, oh, is the most insolent thing. Considering his descent, I was not expecting better.
His guilt and his descent appear to be, by your account, one and the same. But I have heard you accused of nothing worse than being the son of late Mr. Darcy Stewart. And of that, I can assure you, he informed me himself.
I beg your pardon, his countenance.
Insolent girl.
I haven't seen such wonderful.
Under your instructions, sir.
Well, that at least promises the felicity which a marriage of true affection can bestow.
Oh, Miss Bingley, I'm sure I needed to enumerate such advantages of such a match. Such an advantage as them living but 3 miles apart is such a comfort knowing how fond you are of Jane.
Sadly, our carriage waits.
Oh, we must go.
Ah, Miss Elizabeth. It is a great thing we've put it in but once.
When at last the guests and officers quitted the house, Mamma spoke all the way home of preparations. New carriages, wedding clothes, and seeing Jane settled at Netherfield within 3 months.
Oh, and Mr. Collins' marriage to Elizabeth as well.
May I hope, madam, for your interest in the matter of your penultimate eldest Elizabeth, for I solicited the honor of a private audience with her in court this morning.
Oh, dear me, Mr. Collins, I see the drift. I'm sure that Lizzie will be very happy. I'm sure that she can hear objection. Private audience, I see the drift. Come, Kitty.
Dear madam, do not go.
Not go.
Mr. Collins must excuse me. He had nothing to say that anybody need not hear. I'm going away myself.
Nonsense, Lizzie. I'm dying to stay where you are. Oh, Lizzie, I insist upon you staying and hearing Mr. Collins. Stay.
Your modesty adds only to your other defections. For my intentions have been too marked to be mistaken. But before I run away with my feelings, I shall enumerate my reasons for marrying. First, to set the example of matrimony in my parents.
Of course.
And second, it greatly adds to man's well-being. And third, by the particular advice and recommendations of my patroness, Lady Catherine de Bourgh, let her be an active, youthful sort of girl able to make a small income go a long way. Her very word. Now, you may observe, fair cousin, that I do not reckon the notice of Lady Catherine de Bourgh the least of my advantages. Your wit and vivacity, I think, must be acceptable to her, especially when tempered with the silence and respect in which you rank it very precise. And fourth, as I am to inherit this estate after the death of your honored father, I feel bound to choose a wife amongst his daughters so the loss then may be as little as possible. And now nothing remains for me but to assure to you in most animated language the violence of my affection. The fortune I am perfectly indifferent. And as to dowry, I am well aware of your father's finances, and you may assure yourself that no ungenerous reproach shall ever pass my lips when we are married.
No. I'm well aware of the honour of your proposals, Mr. Collins. It is impossible for me to do otherwise than decline them.
Oh, naturally, you cannot be serious in your rejection of me. Good sense and financial necessity forbid it. It is your wish to increase my love by suspense, in accordance with the practice of elegant females.
I am not, Mr. Collins, one of those young ladies. You cannot make me happy, and I am certain I'm the last woman in the world who can make you so. Were your friend, Lady Catherine, to know me, she would find me in every respect ill-qualified. The matter may be considered, therefore, as finally settled.
Oh, you are uniformly charming.
Oh, Mr. Collins, allow me to be the first to congratulate you.
She has begun to delightfully with a refusal.
A refusal?
Out of bashful modesty and the genuine delicacy of her character.
Mr. Bennet, you are wanted immediately. Oh, she's a foolish and headstrong girl who does not know her own interests.
Headstrong?
But I will make her know it.
Headstrong? Foolish? Dear me, if so it were better not to force her acceptance, because it's liable to such defects of temper, she cannot contribute much to my felicity.
Mr. Bennet, you must come and make Lizzie marry Mr. Collins.
Not the pleasure of understanding you.
Pray, excuse me.
And now Mr. Collins begins to say that he will not have Lizzie. Oh, Lizzie!
What am I to do on the occasion?
Why tell her that you insist upon their marrying?
Permit her. Is it true that Mr. Collins has made you an offer of marriage?
It is.
And this offer you refused it.
I have, sir.
And have the alternatives before you, Elizabeth. Your mother will never see you again if you do not marry Mr. Collins. And I will never see you again if you do.
Miss Lizzie, I should simply say, if you keep on going on this way, you will never get a husband. And then I am sure I do not know who to maintain you when your father is dead. Oh, Mr. Collins.
Please excuse me, but I wish to withdraw my pretensions to your daughter's favor. I have come to feel that her high spirits may not find their perfect expression in the somewhat circumscribed life of the parsonage. I have certainly meant well, and if my manner has been in any way reprehensible, I here beg leave to apologize. I am resigned, but I hope approved. Resignation is never so perfect as when the blessing denied loses its initial value.
Miss Lizzie, I shall simply say that I will never talk to you again. And you'll find me as good as my word. I have the pleasure of talking to her dutiful children.
The discussion of Mr. Collins is now nearly at an end. But rather than decamp into disagreement, he made it known
That he was always to come on Saturday, and to Saturday he still meant to stay.
and
The assiduous attentions paid to Lizzie were transferred.
to Charlotte Lucas, who was visiting,
Whose civility in listening to him
was a seasonable relief to us all. Jane, this has come from Netherfield.
From Netherfield?
Caroline Bingley says the whole party are leaving for town without any intention of coming back again.
I do not intend to regret anything I shall leave in Hertfordshire, except your society, my dearest friend. It is evident by this that Mr. Bingley comes back no more this winter.
It is only evident Miss Bingley does not believe he should.
I will read you the passage that particularly hurts me. I will have no reserves. Mr. Darcy is impatient to see his younger sister, and to confess the truth, we are scarcely less eager to meet her again. Georgiana has no equal for beauty, elegance, or accomplishments, and we dare entertain the hope of her being hereafter our sister.
Nonsense. She is a child.
Is it not clear enough? Does it not expressly declare that Caroline either expects, wishes me to be her sister, and that she is perfectly convinced of her brother's indifference to me? Can there be any other opinion on the subject?
Yes, there can, for mine is totally different. Will you hear it?
Most willingly.
It is this. Caroline Bingley sees her brother as another view, and wishes him to marry Georgiana Darcy. I also suspect his regard was further suppressed by his friend, Mr. Darcy's interference. He watched you most narrowly as you danced.
You must not criticize Lizzie. Perhaps I imagine Mr. Bingley's regard women fancy admiration means more than it does.
And men take care that it should. His sister has influenced him as well, Jane, in conjunction with his friends.
Surely she only wishes his happiness.
Oh, she may wish many things besides his happiness, such as an increase of wealth, consequence, and great connections.
No, Lizzie, I think no ill of him or his sister. Let me take it in the best light, in the light in which it may be understood. I have at least the comfort that it has only been an error of fancy on my side, and that it has done no harm to anyone but myself.
Really, Jane, you are too good. You wish to make all the world respectable. The more I see of the world, the more I am dissatisfied with it, and every day confirms my belief in the inconsistency of all human characters. I've come to distrust appearance by the marriage all sense.
You must not hinder your happiness on my behalf.
So, Lizzie, your sister is crossed in love, I find. I congratulate her. Next to being crossed in love, next to being married, a woman likes to be crossed in love every now and then. And you will hardly bear to be long undone by Jane. There are officers here in Meryton to disappoint all the young ladies of the country. Let's Wickham be your man. He's a pleasant young fellow and will jilt you creditably.
I thank you, sir, but a less agreeable man would satisfy me. We must not all expect Jane's good fortune. Amazement. Within the very week, and in a shorter time as Mr. Collins' long speeches would allow, all was settled between him and Charlotte Lucas by way of
domestic arrangement.
And Lizzie feels she accepted him solely from the pure and disinterested desire of an establishment. And as Mamma said,
Cannot how that establishment was gained.
Charlotte's marriage is unaccountable, in every view unaccountable.
My dear Lizzie, do not give way to feelings such as these. They will ruin your happiness.
Engaged to Mr. Collins? My dear Charlotte, impossible.
Why would you be so surprised, my dear Liza? Do you not think it incredible that Mr. Collins could procure any woman's good opinion as he was not as happy to succeed with you?
Indeed not, but 2 offers of marriage in 3 days?
Dear Sir Liza, I'm sure you had time to think it all over, you'll be satisfied with me. I'm not a romantic, I never was. You must visit the parsonage as soon as ever you can.
Mr. Collins has been taken in, and worst of all, Elizabeth, I am sure, is a part of all this mischief.
Oh, heavens no.
I tell you, Mr. Bennet, we are in a pitiable state. Because of the entail, Charlotte Lucas will become mistress of this house, and I will be forced to make way for her and live to see her take my place in it.
Let's just flatter ourselves that I may be the survivor.
In our gloom, Mr. Wickham's society was a material service, and his betrayal by Mr. Darcy was general knowledge. We all agreed that Mr. Darcy was the worst of men.
The following Monday, the Gardiners, my mother's brother, and his wife arrived. He is a sensible, gentlemanlike man, and Mrs. Gardiner, as always, enlivened the presence by distributing presents, describing the newest fashions, and the giving of sage advice.
A young man such as you describe, Mr. Bingley, so easily falls in love with a pretty girl for a few weeks and just as easily forgets her. Now, as for Mr. Wickham, whom you mention far too frequently, I would have you be on your guard.
Oh, he shall not be in love with me if I can help it.
Do not involve yourself in an affection which the want of fortune should make very imprudent.
At present, I am not in love with Mr. Wickham, but I count him as the most agreeable man I ever saw.
Unwise.
But how am I to be wiser than any of my fellow creatures if I intend to? Or how am I even to know it would be wisdom to resist? All I can promise you, therefore, is not to be in a hurry.
I say no more. I shall take Jane with me to London, poor girl, as a change of scene might be of service. It had better have happened to you, Lizzie. You would have laughed yourself out of it sooner. I understand you are to visit the Collinses in their newly married state, and you must visit me as well.
As March was to take me to Hampstead Parsonage, the improvement of spending a night in London made the plan perfect as a plan could be. Jane, look now. I see London is very agreeable to you.
My dear Lizzie, sit with me.
With every pleasure. You look so well.
I confess myself to have been entirely deceived in Miss Bingham's regard for me. She's barely visited me here in London, and when she did come, it was perfectly evident she had no pleasure in it. In fact, she seemed to have come to convince me of her brother's interest in Miss Darcy.
Oh, all gentlemen are held in my lowest repute. It is said that Mr. Wickham is now the admirer of a certain Miss King. Oh, whose most remarkable charm, I might add, seems to be the acquisition through a family mortality of £10,000. And it is the least indelicate of him to direct his attentions towards us so soon after this event. Oh, you look pale, Lizzie. Are you ill?
A man in distressed circumstances has not the time for elegant decorums which others might observe. If she does not object to it, why should we?
Her not objecting to it does not justify him.
I have a very poor opinion of young men who live in Derbyshire, and their intimate friends in Hertfordshire are not much better. I am sick of them all. Thank heavens I'm going tomorrow to the Collins' parsonage, where I shall meet a man who has not one agreeable quality, who has neither manners nor sense to recommend him. Perhaps stupid men are the only ones worth knowing after all.
Ah, bravo! You must accompany Mr. Gardiner and myself
off on a tour of pleasure this summer where we shall avoid men altogether. And regard the letter.
My dear aunt, what delight, what felicity! You bring me fresh life and vigor. Adieu to disappointment and spleen. What are men to rocks and mountains? Every object of my next day's journey was new and interesting. The chaise comfortable, the weather delightful, and all conspired for the pleasure of the traveller. At length, the parsonage was discernible, and Charlotte and Mr. Collins appeared at the gate.
Dearest Eliza, come in immediately as we rude and jostle.
I have news of Lady Catherine's delicate consideration in inviting us to dine at Rosings the next night but one. Do not make yourself uneasy about your apparel, my dear cousin. Lady Catherine will not think worse of you for being simply dressed.
The dinner promised to be exceedingly handsome, with all the servants of each article of plate which Mr. Collins had promised, and elaborately described.
You must not be surprised that Mr. Darcy came in attendance, bringing with him Colonel Fitzwilliam, the youngest son of his uncle.
It is my pleasure to introduce to you the Right Honourable Lady Catherine de Bourgh, my esteemed patroness whose wit, affability, and condescension make her the admired ornament of...
Yes, quite so. You are, I believe, Miss Bennett.
I am.
Your father's estate is entailed on Mr. Collins, I think. For your sake, I'm glad for it. But otherwise, I see no occasion for entailing from the female line. Oh, well, Mr. Collins.
Miss Bennett, I not hope to meet you here.
Nor I.
Allow me to present Colonel Fitzwilliam.
Your beauty oft reported exceeds Miss Bennett.
This has not been true, Colonel Fitzwilliam, all quarters.
Miss Bennett, your family?
My family?
How many sisters have you, Miss Bennett?
I have 4.
That is a great many. Are you the eldest?
I'm the second.
Are they handsome?
Indeed.
Do your sisters play or sing? Do you draw?
No, not at all.
What? None of you? That's very strange. Has your governess left you?
Oh, we never had a governess.
What? No governess? How is that possible? 5 daughters raised in a home without a governess? I've never heard of such a thing. Your mother must have been quite a slave to your education.
No, not perhaps as you might think.
Well, who taught you? Who attended to you?
Those of us who wished to learn never wanted the means. We were always encouraged to read, and books were always provided for us. Those who wished to be idle certainly might.
Aye, but that is what a governess will prevent. Had I known your mother, I would have encouraged her most strenuously to engage one. Are any of your younger sisters out?
Yes, ma'am, all.
All 5 out at once? The younger ones are out before the older ones are married?
But really, ma'am, I think it would be very hard upon the younger sisters if they were not to have their share of society and amusements, or because the eldest may not have the means or inclination to marry early.
On my word, you speak very decidedly for so young a person. Pray, what is your age?
With 3 younger sisters grown up, your ladyship can hardly expect me to own it.
What is it you are saying, Fitzwilliam? What are you telling Miss Bennett?
We are speaking of music, madam.
Of music? Then pray speak aloud.
I was merely reminding Miss Bennett of an earlier promise to favour us at the pianoforte.
Ah, yes. Pray excuse me. I fear you will not find me a great physician. Pray continue your conversation rather than attend me.
I often tell young ladies that no excellence in music can be acquired without constant practice.
You mean to frighten me, Mr. Darcy, but my courage always rises with every attempt to intimidate me.
You cannot really believe me to entertain any design of alarming you. I've had the pleasure of your acquaintance long enough to know that you find great pleasure in expressing opinions which in fact are not your own.
Your cousin will give you a very pretty notion of me and teach you not to believe a word I say. Take care, sir. You're provoking me to retaliate, and such things will come out as will shock your relations to hear.
I'm not afraid of you.
No, pray tell me what you accuse him of. I should like to know how such a paragon behaves among strangers.
You shall hear then, but prepare yourself for something very dreadful. The first time I ever seen him was at a ball, and he refused to dance, even though there was more than one young lady sitting down and walked with a partner.
I had not at the time the honor of knowing any lady in the room, and I'm ill qualified to recommend myself to strangers.
Shall we ask him then? Why a man of sense and education who has been in the world is ill qualified to recommend himself to strangers?
I have not the talent of conversing easily with those who I've never met before.
Well, fortunately for all present, that is not the case here.
Strangely and unexpectedly, after our delightful evening at Lady Catherine de Bourgh's, the two cousins came often of an afternoon to the parsonage. It was plain to see that Colonel Fitzwilliam came because he enjoyed Charlotte and I's society. Why Mr. Darcy came is much harder to understand.
If you had not laughed me to scorn, Eliza, I might suggest as being partial to you.
The gentleman seldom meets my eyes and frequently sits about 10 minutes together without opening his lips.
Ah, but he often looks at you quite appraisingly when your look is engaged elsewhere.
Stop. I'm going for a ramble in the park.
Miss Elizabeth,
Oh, Colonel Fitzwilliam, I did not know you ever walked this way.
are you going much further?
No, I should have turned in a moment. Do you certainly leave Kent on Saturday?
Yes, if Darcy's not properly.
I do not know anybody who enjoys the power of doing whatever he likes more than Mr. Darcy.
So we all do. Some think he has greater means of having it than many others, and I'm at his disposal.
I suppose that's the reason why he brought you down, in order to have somebody at his disposal. I wonder he does not marry, in order to secure a lasting convenience of that kind. But perhaps as a sister is under his sole care, she does just as well for the present.
In fact, I'm joined with him in the guardianship of Miss Darcy.
Are you indeed? Young ladies their age can be a little difficult to manage, and if she has true Darcy spirit, she may like to have her own way.
Indeed. She's one of the most tractable creatures I've ever beheld, and a great favourite of Miss Bingley's. I believe I've heard you say you know her.
I do, yes. Mr. Darcy is uncommonly kind to Mr. Bingley, and takes a prodigious deal of care of him.
From something Darcy said, I have reason to think Bingley very much indebted to him. It's the sort of circumstance, of course, which Darcy could not wish to be commonly known, because if one were to get round to the lady's family, it would be an unpleasant sort of thing.
You may, of course, depend on my not mentioning it.
Darcy merely told me that he congratulated himself on having recently saved a friend from the inconveniences of a most imprudent marriage. I only suspected it to be Bingley because his open nature might get him into a scrape of that sort.
Please excuse me, but I do not see what right Mr. Darcy had to interfere on behalf of a friend's inclination.
I understand there were some very strong objections to the lady's family. One was of a mercantile background, and the other a country attorney, or something like that, and perhaps an unsuitable mother. But this is all conjecture. Good day to you, Miss Elizabeth.
To Jane herself there could be no possible objection, all loveliness and goodness as she is. Neither could anything be urged against my father, though, who with some peculiarities, has abilities himself that Mr. Darcy need not disdain. Of course, my mother. But Mr. Darcy will receive a deeper wound from what of importance in his friend's connections than from their want of sins. He has been governed by this worst kind of pride, and all for the sake of retaining Mr. Bingley for his sister.
Miss Bennet,
Mr. Darcy,
may I, would it be suitable if I inquired of your health?
my health?
As I've not encountered you these past days, I've come to inquire of your health.
My health, Mr. Darcy, meets all the usual standards.
Ah.
Yes.
Ah. In vain have I struggled. It will not do. My feelings will not be repressed. You must allow me to tell you how ardently I admire and love you. I see I dismay you. I'm slow, even dilatory, but there were, of course, the objections to the marriage, the general sense of your social inferiority, of it being a degradation to the line. I could not forget my responsibility to an estate, a way of life, and which, given your circumstances, might disinclude you, and thus the very ardency I described took place against my will and reason, or rather in opposition to my character and inclination. But the very strength of my attachment has made it impossible for me to conquer these feelings, and I can only express the hope that these feelings will now be rewarded by your acceptance of my hand. There. I have spoken ill, but mean well, Miss Whitman.
In such cases as this, it is, I believe, the established mode to express a sense of obligation for the sentiments avowed, however unequally they may be returned. It is natural that obligation should be felt, and if I could feel gratitude, I would now thank you. But I cannot, for I have never desired your good opinion, and you have certainly bestowed it most unwillingly. The feelings which you have described that have long prevented the acknowledgement of your regard can have little difficulty in overcoming it after this explanation.
And this is all the reply which I am to have the honor of expecting. I might wish to be informed why, with such little endeavor at civility, I am thus rejected.
I might as well inquire why, with so evident a design of offending and insulting me, you choose to tell me you like me against your will, against your reason, and even against your character. Was this not some excuse for incivility, if I was uncivil? But I have other provocations. You know I have. Do you think any consideration would tempt me to accept the man who has been the means of ruining, perhaps forever, the happiness of a beloved sister? You divided Mr. Bingley and Jane from one another, or at least yours was the principal means, involving them both in a misery of the acutest kind. Can you deny that you have done it?
I have no wish to deny that I have done everything in my power to separate my friend from your sister, or rejoice in my success. Towards him I have been kinder than towards myself.
Quite clearly said. It is not merely this affair on which my dislike is founded. Your character was revealed to me in a recital I received many months ago from Mr. Wickham.
You take an eager interest in that gentleman's concerns.
Knowing his misfortunes, who could not take an interest in him?
His misfortunes?
And of your infliction. You have withheld the advantages which you must have known have been designed for him, and yet you treat the mention of these misfortunes with contempt.
And this is your opinion of me. I thank you for explaining it so fully. These bitter accusations might have been suppressed had I, with greater policy, flattered you into the belief of my being impelled by unqualified, unalloyed inclination. But disguise of every sort is my abhorrence.
The mode of your declaration, Mr. Darcy, has not affected me in the slightest. You could not have made me the offer of your hand in any way that would tempt me to accept it. From the very beginning, your arrogance and selfish disdain for the feelings of others has built an immovable dislike. You are, Mr. Darcy, the last man in the world whom I could be prevailed upon to marry.
You have said quite enough, madam. I perfectly comprehend your feelings. Forgive me for taking up so much of your time, and accept my best wishes for your health and happiness.
Benjamin Jojo Gould. Hilarious antics, positive demeanor, and his high-quality acting skills. Back when I was taking foundation art freshman year, I thought I wasn't cool enough to talk to upperclassmen. I thought I was a lame freshman. However, Benjamin proved that this notion was wrong. He would laugh at my strange, dark jokes, and he would also his antics really help us stay entertained in drama, because sometimes drama can get boring. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a great class. There's no such thing as a perfect class. It's still an amazing class. Really well. Last year in the Radium Girls play, he pulled off an amazing Jersey accent. He didn't practice it that much. The accents are. culture of the 80s, too. Next year, this is not going to be the same setting, man. We're going to miss you, buddy.
Okay.
Act two, okay. I guess I'll start with Nigel. Okay, so, well, actually I gotta do Graham first, because Graham, I wrote Nigel's after Graham and I later. I've known Graham, well, I've known him at least as a guy in Katie's grade since, for 9 years or so. So, but I only really got to know him about 4. My 8th grade year, his freshman, when we were on the JV soccer team together. And ever since then, it has kind of been like a trademark of Graham to always put in 100% no matter what he's doing. Like on the soccer field, well, okay. So, like on the soccer field at the beginning, he got the award for most improved, or for the 4 years. But you're always 100% whatever you're doing, even though sometimes in drama you can be a little, but you never let us down no matter what role you have. You've always ended up, you've never let us down, and for that I thank you. The drama program and all of us will miss you. The explanation for why the Graham Professor is the intro to this is, so I haven't known Nigel nearly as long as I've known Graham. I believe that my freshman year, your sophomore year, second semester was the first time I actually ever spoke to you. We were doing, I believe, Divine Still Divine, and so we can, his character was named Colin, and and the one thing I remember about that year specifically that has to do with that class period is Mrs. Gould, who is taking over, because Miss Ellison did the first semester, she did the second, going on to talk about how Nigel needed to talk slower and louder. And I'm pretty sure Mrs. Gould can say that he has gotten slower and louder. This is what happens when you don't practice what you're saying. So, but that aside, this year and the last few years, you've really stepped up in whatever you've been doing, and you've always been able to do what we need to do when we need to do, let Graham and Graham us down, and for that we will always listen to you.
They're all great. But I came into this class like thinking that this was going to be like the worst. Like I'm going to be, they're going to push me around and like the little sibling, you know. But actually I have enjoyed this better than any of my years doing drama because it's amazing to know that I have all these people that are here to support me. Tom being one of them. Tom and I argue a lot, if you ask me the cast. We bicker, we throw stuff at each other, we yell at each other, we embarrass each other, but he's been like kind of like my older brother, and so I'm just really grateful for that and all these cast members as well. And so he's really kind and funny, and that's something that's like really encouraging for me because being a freshman, I want to keep on doing this, and so him being one of them, they encourage me to be better. And they give me advice on how to handle the upper school. And we have a really nice handshake and all. It's great. I just want to say thank you, and we're kind of the best game we've been for. So thanks for being a good friend. We're really good.
And how some of them, like you, could keep their cool and others were completely crazy. But there was a couple moments where I was kind of envious of your ability, but it's kind of just giving me something to look up to right now. Because you're just such a great actress, a great person, great Christian. It's really great being able to hang out with you. So I've seen you with a lot of roles, a lot of personalities, and I really admire just how adaptable you are. You can go with the flow, you can change characters, you can do so many things. And that's not great just for drama, but it's great for life, and I think that's going to be a great skill that you have. And I can stop saying great. So it's been a joy seeing you grow and being an inspiration to others. And I know that's not going to stop with you with Trinity. That's going to go on with you to Wheaton. And I know that everyone here is going to miss you. So I wish you luck at Wheaton, and I hope that they encourage and love you as much as us.
I have Miss Josie. I'm not the best at writing speeches, but I am hoping that this can give you at least a fraction of the praise you deserve. Even though I've only known you for a couple years, I don't know what my life would be like without you. You perfectly balance kindness and sass. You're always hilarious. Don't even get me started on your icon, I'd be here for hours. You are phenomenal, Josie. And your dedication to the drama department is such a blessing. Whether you are fixing hair, putting makeup on some very cranky boys. You embrace everything that is thrown at you with a positive attitude, and you are such an amazing role model. You've become kind of like a theater mom to all of us, and it would probably be a wreck without you. I am so happy that I got to see you in the spotlight this year, because you really deserve it. I can only hope that I will end up with half the talent you have. You were really that great. I love you so much, and I'm definitely going to miss you next year, but I don't want to dwell on all that sad stuff, because I feel like celebrating this play, and of course.
Last but not certainly least, I have Miss Katie Biggs. From the top means from the beginning of a scene. While true in the theater world, this particular phrase has been a favorite line from Katie Biggs in Divine Stella Divine last year, and is quickly becoming an inside joke. To start from the top, I met Katie my freshman year in a play called You Can't Take It With You. It struck me immediately that she was truly invested in making every character she was given the best it could possibly be, and I admire that. Acting with Katie has been one of the best high school experiences because she makes being part of performance theater extremely fun and interesting. She is always one of the first ones to jump into an improv game and is always ready and willing to help out behind the scenes. Katie lights up the room with her bright smile, exuberant energy, creative thinking, and fun-loving personality. Katie has been an ever-constant voice of love and encouragement, giving high fives to the cast in times of success, and hugs and positive thoughts in times of mistakes. My favorite thing about Katie is that she is always smiling and always ready for whatever's next. It has been the greatest pleasure to get to know and love her, and the greatest sadness to let her go. I, for one, won't forget her contagious enthusiasm from Tony's mother in You Can't Take It With You to her brilliant portrayal of Lady Catherine de Bourgh. Unfortunately, we cannot take Katie with us next year, but she will be sorely missed as she starts from the top, her college career at Wake Forest. But Katie, I know you're going to kill it and with every bit of dramatic flair and grace. We love you. The next morning, I awoke to the same thoughts and feelings that had kept sleep long at bay, and resolved to see what fresh air and exercise might do to my meditations. Thus, proceeded to my favorite walk.
Miss Bennett, I've been wandering in the grove some time I hope of meeting you, would you do me the honor of reading this letter?
Two offences you last night laid to my charge. First, that I had separated Mrs. Bingley from your sister. And second, that I had, in defiance of honour, blasted the prospects of Mr. Wickham.
Ah, Miss Bennet, you're well known in Hertfordshire.
I had not been long in Hertfordshire.
Do you think me too forward if I applied to you for a second notice?
Ward observed my friend's behaviour. There's most surprising partiality.
Your sister I also watch.
And while her manners were open and engaging, I saw no symptom of warm regard or sentiment. She received his attentions, but remained to my eye indifferent.
My objections to the marriage proceeded from also other forms of repugnance. Your family's want of propriety, betrayed by your mother's manners, your younger sister's forwardness, and even, forgive me, your father's misplaced wit. All confirm my sins.
But I must preserve my friend from a most unhappy connection.
In London, I saw his sister's uneasiness.
Has been greatly excited.
And we are alike sensible that no
time should be lost in detaching him.
Mr. Bingley has a great natural modesty, with a stronger dependence on my sense of judgment than his own.
To convince him that he deceived himself was not difficult. On
this subject, I have nothing more to say, and no apology to offer.
With respect to that more weighty accusation of having injured Mr. Wickham, that I will attempt to refute.
In short, his behavior to me has been scandalous.
My father was not only fond of this man's society, but also hoped the church would be his profession.
And intended to provide for him in it. He would situate him at the family parsonage, provide a legacy of £1,000. Upon my father's death, Mr. Wickham wrote to inform me that
I have resolved not to pursue a church living, but to study law, for which the £1,000 would be insufficient. I hope you shall not think it unreasonable for me to expect a more immediate pecuniary advantage.
the business was soon settled. Mr. Wickham resigned all claim to assistance in the church.
And accepted in return £3,000. 3 years later, he applied himself to me again, having found the law an unprofitable study, and resolved to be ordained.
This must be false. This cannot be. Mr. Wickham wrote to inform me that his circumstances were
exceedingly bad.
Indeed, on both sides, this is merely an assertion. Yet every line refuses my belief in Mr. Darcy's infamy.
You hardly blame me for refusing his entreaty, and his resentment was so great...
You betrayed your father's wishes in your own honor, sir!
...that every appearance of acquaintance was dropped.
Last summer he again most painfully obtruded on my notice. My sister Georgiana, for whom Colonel Fitzwilliam and I were mutual guardians, was taken from school at her request and established in London. Mr. Wickham, by connivance, recommended himself to her.
Ah, Miss Darcy, it is a pleasure to renew your acquaintance.
You were too kind, sir. The pleasure's all mine. She was then but 15, and persuaded to believe herself in love, and consented to an elopement.
Fortunately, regarding me as almost a second father, she confessed her plans.
Oh dear brother, such joy you'll never guess that Mr. Wickham and I are to be wed. He will come for me tomorrow, and although he has suggested we take leave of you unannounced, I wanted to make our plans known to you so that you may give us all good wishes.
You can imagine what I felt and how I acted.
I wrote to Mr. Wickham in undisguised heat, and he left London immediately and alone. His chief object had unquestionably been my sister's fortune of £30,000 and the hope, I believe, of revenging himself on me.
In this light, his attentions to Miss King seemed to be the consequence of views solely and hatefully mercenary.
This, madam, is a faithful narrative of every event described. Should your abhorrence of me make my assertions valueless, I direct you to Colonel Fitzwilliam, also guardian of Georgiana, who is fully aware of every event described above. I would only add,
God bless you. How humiliating is this discovery, yet how just a humiliation. Had I been in love, I could not be more wretchedly blind than vanity. Not love has been my folly. As for the mention of my family in terms so mortifying, my sense of shame is severe, but the charge strikes too forcibly for denial. Their defects, I fear, seem hopeless of remedy. My mother puts herself forward beyond all expectation, while my father does nothing to restrain the uncontrollable giddiness and self-willed carelessness of my younger sisters. All excepting dear Jane. What can I call them all but ignorant, idle, and vain? How despicably I have acted. I, who pride myself in my discernment. Till this moment, I never knew myself.
I'm glad you are back, Lizzie.
Have you had any flirting? I was in great hopes you would have got a husband before you got back.
Our sisters have been more than ordinarily silly.
Oh, pooh. Aunt Phillips says Lizzie had better take in Mr. Collins, but I do not think there would have been any fun in it. Jane will be quite an old maid soon. Lord, how I should like to be married before any of you, and then I should chaperone you about to all the balls. Kitty and I have been to the shops.
Oh, I do wish you had gone along with us, Mary, for we had such fun. We talked and laughed so loud that anyone might have heard 10 miles off.
Far be it from me, dear sister, to appreciate myself as such pleasures, but I confess they would have no charms for me. I would infinitely prefer a book.
Look here, I bought this bonnet. I don't think it's very pretty, but I thought I might as well buy it as not.
You see?
Oh, but there were 2 or 3 much uglier in the shop. And when I bought some pretty colored satin to trim it fresh, I think it will be very tolerable.
Sister, I am too grieved in having a refusal must have caused Mr. Darcy.
You don't blame me, however, for refusing, Mr. Darcy.
Blame you? Oh, no. But Wickham is so very bad, it is almost past belief.
How unfortunate that you should have used such very strong expressions in speaking of Wickham to Mr. Darcy, and now do it appear wholly undeserved.
Well, Lizzie, what's your opinion now of this business of James? My belief, he's a very undeserving man. Oh, I don't believe she shall ever get him now. Mamma. Oh, well, my comfort is, Jane, I am sure, will die of a broken heart, and then he shall be sorry for what he has done.
News! Ecstatic, delicious!
Wonderful!
News!
Hearing the regiment will leave for Brighton.
I thought my heart should have broken.
My heart!
Mine, but, oh no, I received an invitation from Mrs. Falston, wife of the colonel of the regiment, to accompany her to
Brighton!
Brighton.
And I cannot see why I should not be asked as well.
Shan.
Sharp!
You confuse yourself with the dance Espanol, and you put one dress for the new season, and that's an unsuitable breed.
Lydia will never be easy till she's exposed to her qualities in some public place or other, and we can never expect her to do it with such little expense or inconvenience to her family under the present circumstances.
Oh, Papa!
Were you aware of the very great disadvantage to us all, which must arise from public notice of Lydia's unguarded and impudent manner, nay, which has already arisen from it?
But has she frightened away some of your lovers?
I have no such interest to resent, but, dear father, if there's no check to her exuberant spirits, she shall soon be beyond the reach of all amendment.
Oh, who?
Yes, who? And Kitty will follow wherever Lydia leads.
Papa has said I may. Indeed, a visit to Brighton comprises every possibility of earthly happiness.
And you shall play the common flirt with at least 6 officers at once.
I tell you all, I shan't not ever leave
We
my...
shall have no peace at Longbourn if Lydia does not go to Brighton.
Mr. Wickham has arrived to say his goodbyes for the regiment to camp tomorrow for Brighton.
I will not say my goodbyes, but Papa has agreed I may accept Mrs. Forster's invitation for an extended visit.
It would be my pleasure, if asked, to introduce you in Brighton and share in the town's historical views. Miss Bennet.
Mr. Wickham,
And my disgrace, Miss Bennet.
I do not rightly understand you.
Well, I've always admired your understanding.
Have I mentioned I met Colonel Fitzwilliam and Mr. Darcy at Rosings? You know Colonel Fitzwilliam, I believe.
In passing, you saw Darcy frequently.
Almost every day. I think Mr. Darcy improves on acquaintance.
Indeed. Is it an address he improves? For I dare not hope he improves in essentials.
I mean that, from knowing him better, his disposition was better understood.
Indeed, I must rejoice that he is wise enough to even assume the appearance of what is right. For I must return from such foul misconduct I have suffered by. But I must leave you. We're on the march. A last word on Mr. Darcy. His manners being in a state of improvement may be imputed to his wish of forwarding, with his new affability, a match with the daughter of the Lady Catherine de Bourgh. A match long contemplated by both families as a boon to the growth of their estates and continuances of their, well, honorable lives. Goodbye, Miss Bennet. I feel we shall not meet again. I wish you good fortune in whatever way your inclinations lie.
the regiment, including many acquaintances, wrapped a cloak of doom and disinclination around our domestic circle. Lydia has promised to write very often, but her letters are always very short.
Where such and such officers had attended them. Where she's seen such beautiful ornaments as made her quite wild.
Now she purchased another new gown and then another new person.
And my constant hope of a tour to the lake with the gardeners is now the object of my happiest thoughts.
My dear Elizabeth, our plans, due to Mr. Gardner's business, must be somewhat curtailed in extent. We must give up the lakes and substitute for a more contracted tour. Have you set your heart on seeing the lakes?
Well, I own they were an attraction.
I fear we are confined to Berkshire, though that leaves us the delights of Warwick, Kenilworth, Lambton, and of course, Pemberley.
Oh, Pemberley.
The Darcy estate.
Yes, I recall.
If it were merely a fine house richly furnished, I would not care about it myself, but the grounds are delightful.
The grounds, yes. But is not the family down for the summer?
Indeed not, you goose, for they always summer in London. Elizabeth?
The journey was, for scenery, splendid, and as we turned in at the lodge, we saw that Pemberley Park was quite large.
Contains quite a variety of ground.
Glorious woods.
Eh?
Woods.
Good streams for fishing.
The house is well a rising ground. Indeed, I own I've never seen such natural beauty so little contradicted by an awkward taste.
You are very welcome. The master is of course absent, but we expect him tomorrow with a large party of friends. We are instructed as always to show you the house if you would like.
Most kind indeed.
Your master much of Pemberley, is he?
Not so much as I wish, sir.
Yeah. Have a look at the strings, eh?
Please to step in. That above the fireplace would be my master, drawn perhaps 8 years ago.
A handsome face, yes, but Lizzie, you can tell us whether it is like or not.
Does a young lady know Mr. Darcy?
I do.
And do you not think a very handsome gentleman, ma'am?
Very handsome, yes.
I have not heard a cross word from him in my life. He's the best master that's ever lived.
Mr. Darcy, you mean?
Yes, ma'am. Go as you please, see what you like.
In what an amiable light this places him, though not quite consistent with his behavior towards our poor friend.
It is possible we are deceived. Perhaps, Alice, we may view the grounds?
Ah, with the greatest pleasure. Mr. Gardner. Indeed, the landscape, the lawn, the rivers, all in harmony with the buildings. I'm quite swept away.
Oh.
Oh. Ah.
This is a most welcome surprise.
Indeed, most welcome.
May I inquire of your well-being and that of your family?
In all regards, well.
I'm very pleased to hear so. Would you do me the honor of introducing me to your friends?
Ah, Mr. and Mr. Gardner, may I present Mr. Darcy?
Charmed.
Delighted.
My aunt and uncle.
That, of course, only adds to the honor.
Wonderful streams, Mr. Darcy. Capital angling, I suspect.
Quite satisfactory, Mr. Gardner. Should you continue in the neighborhood, please do me the pleasures fishing here as much as you choose. I can easily provide requisite tackle and point you to the direction of the stream where there's usually most sport.
Eh?
Best sport.
Very generous, sir. Looking forward to it.
Very generous indeed.
Please exempt our forwardness in walking the grounds. Your housekeeper informed us you would certainly not be here until tomorrow.
I have preceded my party to arrange their comfort. Among them are some who claim your acquaintance, Mr. Bingley and his sister, and one who more particularly wishes to be known to you. Will you allow me, or do I ask too much, to introduce my sister to your acquaintance during your stay at Lambton?
I'm delighted by such a compliment.
Ah.
Yes, great pleasure.
Perfectly well behaved, polite, and unassuming.
But there is something a little aloof in him, though, to be sure, Lizzie, he is not handsome, but his features are perfectly good. What came you to tell us he was so disagreeable?
Eh?
Disagreeable.
Indeed not. They're the worst of little whimsical incivilities.
My dearest daughter, the meetings and introductions suggested by Mr. Darcy 2 days following excited my lively attention. I had conceived, you might say, a suspicion of Mr. Darcy and my niece, which on that occasion grew to a full conviction that at least one of them knew what it was to love. Of Lizzie's sensations, I remained a little in doubt, but that the gentleman was overflowing with admiration was evident enough.
Thus, dearest Jane, and speaking of your supposed rival, Miss Darcy, I saw no looks between her and Mr. Bingley that spoke of any particular regard. Mr. Bingley also asked with very great interest if all my sisters were still at Longbourn, which I took to be an inquiry as to your married state. Miss Bingley continues her dislike of me. Georgiana Darcy was greatly civil, but very shy.
Some company, miss.
Oh, got it to you then. News from Jane, very welcome. Thought you might be wanting it. My dearest Lizzie, something has occurred of a most serious and unexpected nature.
Colonel Foster has informed us that Lydia has run off to Scotland with one of his officers. To own the truth, Lizzie, it is with Wickham.
Worse still,
imprudent as a marriage between Mr. Wickham and our poor Lydia would be.
We are now frantic to be sure that it has taken place at all. For now we hear they have not gone to Scotland, but to London.
And there is reason to believe
that he never intended to marry Lydia at all.
And Colonel Foster
fears that Wickham is not a man to be trusted.
Father is going to London with Colonel Foster to try and discover her. And what he means to do, I know not.
Oh, he shall shoot the scoundrel through the heart, and we shall all be ruined.
Adieu. I cannot help Ernest begging you
to come as soon as possible. Oh. Where is my aunt? I must find her this moment on business that cannot be delayed.
What is the matter?
Please, I have not an instant to lose.
I will send a servant. You cannot go yourself. A glass of wine. Shall I get you one?
No.
You are very ill.
No, I thank you. Only dreadful news. My sister has left all her friends and has eloped under the power of Mr. Wickham. You know him too well to doubt the rest. She is lost forever.
I am grieved, shocked, but is it absolutely certain?
Certain. My father's in London, and I'm sure Mr. Garner will help. But how is such a man to be worked on? How are they even to be found?
If there's anything...
Most kind, but...
Would to heaven that anything could be said or done on my part, that might offer consolation to such distress.
We must go at once. Pray, apologize for us to Miss Darcy.
Dear me, your company seems to have fled the grounds in disarray.
Your pardon?
How very ill Eliza Bennet looked this morning, Mr. Darcy. I never in my life saw anyone so much altered since the spring. She's grown so brown, coarse.
It is perhaps no miraculous consequence of traveling in the summer.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I recall you saying one night, she a beauty, I shall as soon call her mother a wit. But afterwards she seemed to improve on you. I believe you thought her rather pretty at one time.
That was only when I first knew her. But now I consider her the most handsome girl in all of my acquaintance.
I had never perceived while the regiment was in Hertfordshire that Lydia had any partiality for Wickham, but only wanted encouragement to make her intentions known. The mischief and neglect and the second indulgence towards such a girl. A family so deranged, a father absent, a mother incapable of exertion. It is all my fault, knowing what I did in Mr. Wickham, that I had not the foresight to make that knowledge public. Has anything been heard of the fugitives?
Not yet, but now that my dear uncle has come, I hope all will be well.
Is father in London?
Yes, he went on Tuesday.
Oh, if I had been able to carry on my point of all the family going to Brighton, this would have never happened. Oh, why did the Forsters let her out of their sight?
Mother.
Oh, and now Mr. Wickham will fight Mr. Bennet wherever they find them. Oh, I do not know what we shall do. Not know what we shall do.
shall go to London, call my brother, and consult together what is to be done.
This is a most unfortunate affair, but we must stem the tides of malice and pour into the wounded bosoms of each other the balm of sisterly consolation.
You see, Mary thinks it is all a book.
Lydia wrote saying if we knew where she was going.
You would laugh. What a good joke it will be when I write to Mamma and sign my name, Lydia Wickham. I hope you will drink to our good journey.
Thoughtless, Lydia. But at least it shows she was serious in the object of her journey. Whatever he might afterwards persuade her to do, it was not, on her part, a scheme of infamy. Oh, my poor father, how he must have felt it.
I never saw anyone so shocked. He could not speak a word.
Oh, Mr. Bennet, shocked? I was taken in immediately. Indeed, I had to be carried to my room. Twice. Father! Oh, Mr. Bennet, dear Mr. Bennet.
Father, what you must have endured.
It's my own doing. I ought to feel it.
You must not be too severe upon yourself.
Lizzie, let me for once feel how much I am to blame. Or perhaps I'll defer till Kitty runs away.
I will not run away, Papa. If I should ever go to Brighton, I will behave far better than Lydia.
Do you suppose them to be in London?
Yes, well, could they be so well considered?
Father, the local gardener in London.
Oh, indeed, I have palpitations!
I have seen them both.
Thank heaven!
They are not married, nor can I find there was any intention of being so. However, I hope it will not be long before they are.
Not long, not long. See, there, she is a good girl, not long.
Hush, Mrs. Bennet.
All that is required of you by settlement to assure your daughter her equal share of the £5,000 secured among your children after your decease.
Into engagement of allowing her £100 per annum.
Is it possible? Can it be possible that he will marry her?
So Wickham is not so undeserving as we have thought him.
Well, the terms, I suppose, must be complied with.
Exactly. You must write him this, Mr. Bennet. Inscribe this minute.
And right I will, but there are two things I want to very much know. How much money your uncle has laid about to bring this about, and how am I ever to repay?
Money? My uncle? What do you mean, sir?
No man in his right senses would marry Lydia. 100 during my life and 50 after I'm born. Becomes a fool if he takes a farthing less than £10,000.
Mr. Garner can pay such a sum.
Indeed, he could not, nor I would pay it.
Mr. Bennet, you must write. They must marry. This is a delightful thing indeed. Oh, she will be married. I shall see her again. Oh, my good, kind brother. How I long to see her and dear Wickham, too.
Dear Wickham?
But the clothes, the wedding clothes, we must see to it. I will make all the arrangements myself. Oh, ring the bell, Kitty. Oh, my dear, dear Lydia, how happy we shall all be when we meet again. Oh, calico, muslin, cambric, I will manage it all.
Mr. Gardner wrote that Mr. Wickham would resolve on quitting the militia and would enter the regular army under the command of General Trott, now quartered in the north.
After their wedding day, the couple returned to Longbourn.
And the family assembled to receive them.
Congratulate me, sisters. It is a great while since I've been here. Good gracious, when I was away, I'm sure I had no idea of being married, though I thought it would be very good fun if I was. Hey, Jane, I take your place now, and you must go lower, because I am a married woman. And what do you think of my husband? Is he not a charming man? All my sisters must go to Brighton now, as that is the place to get husbands.
I thank you for my share of the favour, but I do not particularly like your way of getting husbands.
La, you are so strange, but I must tell you how it went off. We were married, you know, at St. Clement's, as Wickham's lodgings were in that parish, and it was settled that we should all be there by 11 o'clock. Well, just as the carriage came to the door, my uncle was called away on business, and I was so frightened that the wedding must needs be put off. But then I recollected Mr. Darcy would do as well to give me away.
Mr. Darcy?
Give you away? Oh yes, he was to come there with Wickham, you know, but gracious me, I quite forgot. I ought not to have said a word, it was to be such a secret.
If it was to be secret, say not another word.
Indeed, we shall ask you no questions. Indeed, for then I should tell all, and Wickham would be so angry.
Lydia! Come in, Mamma.
remedy the evil caused.
But not brought on by himself. Lydia.
Lydia, indeed. He called on her, but found resolved on remaining.
Lydia will be Lydia still.
Mr. Darcy asked him why he did not marry your sister at once.
Because we are not rich.
Indeed, Wickham still cherished the hope of making his fortune by marriage in some other country. Mr. Darcy settled upon him a large sum for his acquiescence.
I knew it.
And made Mr. Gardner acquainted with it. Lizzie, where are you going?
To speak with father.
This must go, Lizzie. No further than yourself would deem it most. Mr. Darcy wants neither the act or the sign.
You have told me.
I have, yes.
Ah, Miss Elizabeth. I fear I interrupt your solitary ramble.
You do, yes.
Ah,
But it does not follow that the interruption must be unwelcome.
I would be sorry indeed if it were. I found from your aunt you've seen Pemberley. And you saw the housekeeper, I suppose?
Yes, I have.
What did she say?
That you had gone into the army and, she feared, had not turned out well.
I see. Did Darcy introduce you to his sister?
He did.
Do you much like her?
Very much.
I think she will turn out well.
I dare say she will. She has gone over the most trying age.
You think ill of me, do you not, Miss Elizabeth?
I'm very glad you have married my sister, Mr. Wickham. How should you find making sermons?
Exceedingly well, but it was not to be. I will leave you to your thoughts.
Come now, Mr. Wickham. We are brother and sister. We must not quarrel about past events. In the future, I hope we shall always be of one mind.
You are a generous spirit, sister.
He is as fine a fellow as I ever saw. He smacks and simpers and makes love to us all.
I often think there's nothing so bad as parting with old friends. One seems so forlorn without them. That is a consequence, madam, of marrying one of your daughters. Must make you better satisfied that the other four is still single.
Mr. Bingley is coming down, Mamma.
Wonderful news! I mean, he is nothing to us, and I'm sure I never want to see him again. But he is welcome to Netherfield, and who knows what might happen? I assure you the news is not affecting me the pleasure of pain.
If he wants our society, let him seek it.
Oh, but you will wait on him, of course.
I will not spend my hours chasing after neighbors every time they go away and come back again.
I begin to worry that he comes at all. I could see him with a perfect indifference, but I could hardly bear to hear it thus perpetually talked of. My mother means well, but she does not know, no one can know, how much I suffer from what she says.
I wish I could say anything to comfort you, but it is wholly out of my power.
Mr. Bingley has entered the paddock and is riding toward the house.
Do you contradict yourself with a smile of expectation?
Let me first see how he behaves. Then it will be early enough for expectation.
And there's a gentleman with him, Mamma.
Oh, some acquaintance or other, my dear. I'm sure I do not know.
La, it looks just like that. What's his name? The tall, proud man.
Mr. Darcy? Oh, and so it does, I vow. Well, any friend of Mr. Bingley's is welcome here. Though I must say, I hate the very sight of him.
Ah, Mr. Darcy.
The gentlemen were received with a tolerable ease and propriety of behaviour, I thought, equally free from any form of resentment or unnecessary complacence.
Oh, Mr. Bingley, it has been such a great while since we last went away.
Be gracious, yes, far too long in my own opinion.
I began to be afraid that you were never going to come back.
Suspense.
Miss Lucas is married and settled, and one of my daughters is as well.
Matter for the greatest congratulation.
It is a delightful thing indeed to have a daughter well married and settled. Mr. Wickham is taking her up to Newcastle, a place far too lawful in my estimation.
Indeed. Excellent shooting this season, eh, Darcy?
Oh, Mr. Bingley, when you kill your own bird, I pray that you'll come here and kill all of ours. You are visiting my tent, Mr. Bingley, for when you came to town last winter, you promised to take a family dinner with us. I have not forgot, you see. I was so very disappointed when you did not come back and keep your engagement.
To be remedied at the earliest opportunity, eh, Darcy?
You've been quite silent, Mr. Darcy. I hope you're well.
Quite well. Very well.
And then they went away.
Why, if Mr. Darcy came, only to be silent, grave, and indifferent, did it come at all?
Now that this first meeting is over, I feel perfectly easy. Obviously, on both sides, we met only as common and indifferent acquaintances.
Oh, Jane, take care.
My dear Lizzie, you do not think me so weak as to be in danger now.
I think you are in very great danger, making him as much in love with you as ever. A man who has been once refused. How could I ever be so foolish as to expect a renewal of his love? Is there not one among the sex who would protest against such a weakness as a second proposal to the same woman? There is no indignity so abhorrent to the feelings.
Mr. Bingley called again on Friday.
Having once set on this road to happiness, there was nothing on the side of prudence to stop him or make his progress slow.
He called again the following Tuesday.
She was, of course, only too good for him. However, as nobody minds having what is too good for them, he was very earnest in his pursuit of the blessing.
He called again Thursday week. I begin to think there's something to this, Jane.
And it was not possible that encouragement from Jane should be long wanting.
Mr. Bingley has come and he looks quite serious. Oh, Mr. Bingley, what a memorable surprise. What is the matter, Mamma? What do you keep winking at me for? I did not wink at you. Kitty, Mary, I want to talk to you.
Mr. Bingley, you write excellently.
Oh, Elizabeth, I very much wish to consult you two as to the, I want to talk to you.
Miss Bennet, I say, might I venture your given name?
Indeed, you might, if I might venture yours.
Oh, smashing, top of the hill, really. Jane, I wish to make known how great my esteem is for you.
I see.
Oh, by heavens, esteem won't do, I must say affection, I really must. My dear Miss Bennet, Jane, if you would do me the honor of...
I will, and with a very full heart. But perhaps for fuller expression, you might prefer a word with my father.
Your father? Well, this is top of the hill and no mistaking. I will speak to him if available this very moment. Promise me you won't move so much as a ripple.
I will endeavour to be very, very still. Oh dear. Lizzie!
Lizzie what?
'Tis too much, by far too much. I do not deserve it. Why is everybody not as happy?
Catch! A veritable catch! I am ecstatic!
Good girl. I have no doubt of your doing well together. You're each so compliant that nothing will ever be resolved, so easy that every servant will treat you, and so generous that you will always exceed your income.
Exceed their income? Mr. Bennet, what are you talking of? He makes 5,000 or 4 or 5,000 a year, and very likely more.
Oh, my dear Lizzie, why am I thus singled out from my family, less above them all? If I could but see you as happy.
If you were to give me 40 such men, I could never be so happy as you. Till I have your disposition, your goodness, I can never have your happiness. No, let me shift for myself, and perhaps, if I am very lucky, I shall meet with another Mr. Collins in time.
Indeed.
Mamma, I have no notion to proceed. It is Lady Catherine come to call. Yes.
I have shown myself in.
Catherine, you are very welcome.
I hope you're well, Miss Bennet. This, I suppose, is your mother. And these, I suppose, are your sisters.
Yes, madame. My youngest of all is recently married.
This must be a most inconvenient sitting room for the evening in summer. The windows are full west.
Indeed, we never sit here after dinner.
And, Miss Bennet, there seems to be a prettyish kind of little wilderness on one side of your lawn. I shall be glad to take a turn in it, if you will favor me with your company.
understand the reason of my journey hither.
Indeed, you are mistaken. I cannot account for the honor.
However insincere you may choose to be, you will not find me so. My character has been ever celebrated for its sincerity and frankness. I was told not only was your sister on the point of being most advantageously married, but that you would, in all likelihood, be united with my own nephew, Mr. Darcy. Though I know it to be a scandalous falsehood, I have come here to make my sentiments known to you.
If you believed it to be impossible, I wonder you took the trouble of coming so far.
To have your report universally contradicted, can you declare there is no foundation to it?
Your ladyship may ask questions which I shall choose not to answer.
This is not to be borne.
Your ladyship has declared it to be impossible.
But your arts and allurements may, in a moment of infatuation, make him forget what he owes to himself and to his family. You may have drawn him in.
If I have, I shall be the last person to admit it.
I am unaccustomed to such language as this, Miss Bennet. I am entitled to know all his dearest concerns.
But you are not entitled to know mine.
Mr. Darcy is engaged to my daughter. Now what have you to say?
Thus, you have no reason to suppose he would make an offer to me.
From his earliest hours, his mother and I planned this union, and he is destined for his cousin.
But what is that to me? If there is no other objection to my marrying your nephew, I shall certainly not be kept from it by knowing that his mother and his aunt wish him to marry Mr. Bear.
Honor, decorum, prudence, nay, interest forbid it. Your lives will be a disgrace. You have neither family connections nor fortune. Your name will never even be mentioned by any of us.
These are heavy misfortunes, but the wife of Mr. Darcy will have no cause to repine.
Obstinate, headstrong girl, I am not in the habit of booking disappointment.
That will make your ladyship's situation more pitiable, but it will have no effect on me.
Tell me, once and for all, are you engaged to him?
I'm not.
And will you promise me to never enter into such an engagement?
I will make no promise of the kind. I must beg, therefore, to be imported no further on the subject.
Not so hasty, if you please. To the objections I have urged, I have yet another to add. I am no stranger to the particulars of your sister's infamous elopement.
Lady Catherine.
A patched-up business at the expense of your father and uncle.
I must ask
Is
you...
such a girl to be my nephew's sister? Is her husband, the son of his late father's steward, to be his brother? Heaven and earth, of what are you thinking? Are the shades of Pemberley to be thus polluted?
You have insulted me in every possible method. I must beg to return to the house.
You are resolved to ruin him in the eyes of his friends and make him the contempt of the world against the claims of duty, honor, and gratitude.
Neither duty, honor, nor gratitude has any possible hold on me in the present instance. And with regard to the resentment of his family, or the indignation of the world, if the former were excited by my marrying him, it would not give me one moment's cause of concern, and the world would have too much sense to join in on the scorn.
Very well. I shall now know how to act. Do not imagine, Miss Bennet, that your ambition will ever be gratified. I take no leave of you. I send no compliments to your mother. I am most severely displeased.
Will Lady Catherine not come in again and dress herself? She will not have it. She will go.
She is a very handsome woman and ridiculously civil. I suppose she only came to tell us that the Collinses are well. I suppose she had nothing important to say to you, Lizzie.
Nothing particular.
Lizzie, I received a letter this morning that's quite astonishing. I not to know I have two daughters on the brink of matrimony. The letter is from Mr. Collins.
Mr. Collins?
Your daughter Elizabeth, it is presumed, shall no longer bear the name Bennet soon after her elder sister has resigned.
And the chosen partner of her fate may be reasonably looked up to as one of the most illustrious personages in this land.
You possibly guess who's meant by this, Lizzie. Mr. Darcy, you see, is the man. Now, Lizzie, I surprised you. Is it not rich? Are you not diverted? Lizzie, you look as if you did not enjoy it. Can you not laugh at them at the report of country parsons? For what do we live but to make sport of our neighbors and laugh at them in our turn?
Oh, I am excessively diverted. But it is so strange.
Yes, this is what makes it so amusing. His perfect indifference and your pointed dislike make it so delightfully absurd.
Mr. Darcy is here, Elizabeth, and most expressly to see you.
Mr. Darcy, I'm a very selfish creature, and for the sake of giving relief to my own feelings, care not how much they may wound yours. I can no longer help but thank you for the unexampled kindness you have shown my younger sister. When known to the rest of my family, I should not have merely my own gratitude to express.
I'm sorry, exceedingly sorry, that you've been informed of what may, in a mistaken light, have given you uneasiness. I did not believe Mrs. Gardner so little to be trusted.
You must not blame my aunt. Lydia's thoughtlessness first betrayed me to your involvement. Let me thank you again and again.
If you will thank me, let it be for yourself alone. Much as I respect your family, I believe I thought only of you. So, indeed, well, if your feelings are still what they were last April, tell me so at once. My wishes and affections are unchanged, but one word from you will silence me forever.
Mr. Darcy. Mr. Darcy, my feelings have undergone so material a change that the period you allude to as to make me accept with gratitude your...
Present assurances?
Exactly.
I am...
You are?
I am, yes, very much so. I believe my aunt has been deceived.
She has.
My feelings, you may know, are exactly contrariwise. I hope you spoke to her quite frankly.
Oh, you know enough of my frankness to believe me capable of that. After abusing you so abominably to your face, I could have no scruple in abusing you to all your relations.
What did you say of me that I did not deserve? My previous behavior to you has merited the severest reproof. It was unpardonable.
The conduct of either, if examined, is not irreproachable. Since then, I hope we have improved in civility.
As a child, I was taught what was right, but I was not taught to control my temper. I was given good principles, but left to follow them only in pride and conceit. By you, I was properly humbled. I came to you without a doubt of my reception, but you showed me how insufficient were my pretensions to please a woman worthy of being pleased.
And Mr. Bingley?
On the evening before my going to London, I told him all that had occurred to make my interference in his affairs absurd and impertinent. I told him, moreover, that I believed myself mistaken in supposing my sister was indifferent to him. And as I could easily perceive his attachment to her was unabated, I saw no doubt of their happiness together.
Did you speak from your own observations, or merely from my information last spring?
I narrowly observed her, but I was convinced of her affection.
And what do you narrowly observe of me, Mr. Darcy?
That something, I'm not sure what, is to be expected. What have I done?
Oh, I'm very sorry. You have not yet learned to be laughed at, but it's rather too early to begin.
Pray, excuse me, I must speak to your father.
I have given to him my consent. I now give it to you if you're resolved to act. But I know your disposition, Lizzie. You'll be neither happy nor respectable unless you truly esteem Johnson. Your lively talents will put you in the greatest danger of unequal marriage, and you can scarcely escape the discreditable misery.
I do esteem him, father. He has grown exceedingly in my estimation, and his own affections are not the work of a day, but have stood the testament of many months' suspense. He is the object of my choice.
But this is an evening of wonders for you.
Oh, good gracious! Dear me, Mr. Darcy, only think, who would have thought it? And is it really true, my sweetest? Oh, how great and rich you should be! What jewels and cabbages you will have! Why, Jane, is nothing to it, nothing at all! Oh, 3 daughters married, 10,000 a year! Oh, what will become of me? I should get quite distracted!
Now I am quite happy, for you will be as happy as myself. Were it nothing but his love of you, I must always have esteemed him. But that is Bingley's friend and your husband, that can only be Bingley and yourself more dear to me. Now go, go!
And now, Mr. Darcy, pray continue.
words too.
Benjamin Jojo Gould. Hilarious antics, positive demeanor, and his high-quality acting skills. Back when I was taking foundation art freshman year, I thought I wasn't cool enough to talk to upperclassmen. I thought I was a lame freshman. However, Benjamin proved that this notion was wrong. He would laugh at my strange, dark jokes, and he would also his antics really help us stay entertained in drama, because sometimes drama can get boring. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a great class. There's no such thing as a perfect class. It's still an amazing class. Actually performed really well. Last year in the Radium Girls play, he pulled off an amazing Jersey accent. He didn't practice it that much. On top of that, he has an appreciation for the great culture of the 80s, too. Next year, this is not going to be the same setting, man. We're going to miss you, buddy.
Okay.
I have two, okay. You guys will start with tonight. Okay, so, well, actually I gotta do Graham first, because Graham, I wrote Nigel's after Graham and I later. I've known Graham, well, I've known him at least as a guy in Katie's grade since, for, well, 9 years or so. So, but I only really got to know him about 4. My 8th grade year, his freshman, when we were on the JV soccer team together. And ever since then, it has kind of been like a trademark of Graham to always put in 100% no matter what he's doing. Like on the soccer field, well, okay. So, like on the soccer field at the beginning, he got the award for most improved. Right before the 4 years. But you're always 100% whatever you're doing, even though sometimes in drama you can be a little but you never let us down no matter what role you have. You've always ended up you've never let us down, and for that I thank you. The drama program and all of us will miss you. The explanation for why the Graham first was the intro to this is, so I haven't known Nigel nearly as long as I've known Graham. I believe that my freshman year, your sophomore year, second semester was the first time I actually ever spoke to you. We were doing, I believe, Divine Still Divine. And so we can, his character was named Colin, and and the one thing I remember about that year specifically that has to do with that class period is Mrs. Gould, who is taken over, because Miss Ellison did the first semester, she did the second, going on to talk about how Nigel needed to talk slower and louder. And I'm pretty sure Mrs. Gould can say that he has gotten slower and louder. So what happens when you don't practice what you're saying? So, but that aside, this year and the last few years, you've really stepped up in whatever you've been doing, and you've always been able to do what we need to do when we need to do, like Graham and Graham was down, and for that we will always listen.
So I am Thomas. They're all great. But I came into this class like thinking that this was going to be like the worst. Like I'm going to be, they're going to push me around and like the little sibling, you know. But actually, I have enjoyed this better than any of my years doing drama because it's amazing to know that I have all these people that are here to support me. Tom being one of them. Tom and I argue a lot. If you ask him in the cast, we bicker, we throw stuff at each other, we yell at each other, we embarrass each other. But he's been like kind of like my older brother, and so I'm just really grateful for that and all these cast members as well. And so he's really kind and funny, and that's something that's like really encouraging for me because being a freshman, I want to keep on doing this, and so him being one of them, they encourage me to be better. And they give me advice on how to handle the upper school. And we have a really nice handshake and all. It's great. I just want to say thank you, and we're kind of the best band in the world. So thanks for being a good friend. We're really good.
Okay, so I have Ireland. When I first came into drama, I was really intimidated by all these crazy people. And how some of them, like you, could keep their cool, and others were completely crazy. But there was a couple moments where I was kind of envious of your ability, but it's kind of just giving me something to look up to by now. Because you're just such a great actress, a great person, great Christian. It's really great being able to hang out with you. So I've seen you with a lot of roles, a lot of personalities, and I really admire just how adaptable you are. You can go with the flow, you can change characters, you can do so many things. And that's not great just for drama, but it's great for life, and I think that's going to be a great skill that you have. And I should stop saying great. So it's been a joy seeing you grow and being an inspiration to others. And I know that's not going to stop when you live Trinity. That's going to go on with you to Wheaton. And I know that everyone here is going to miss you. So I wish you luck at Wheaton, and I hope that they encourage and love you as much as us.
I have Miss Josie. I'm not the best at writing speeches, but I am hoping that this can give you at least a fraction of the praise you deserve. Even though I've only known you for a couple years, I don't know what my life would be like without you. You perfectly balance kindness and sass, and you're always hilarious. Don't even get me started on your accoutant, I'd be here for hours. You're phenomenal, Josie, and your dedication to the drama department is such a blessing. Whether you are fixing hair, putting makeup on some very cranky boys, you embrace everything that is thrown at you with a positive attitude, and you are such an amazing role model. You've become kind of like a theater mom to all of us, and it would probably be a wreck without you. I am so happy that I got to see you in the spotlight this year, because you really deserve it. I can only hope that I will end up with half the talent you have. You were really that great. I love you so much, and I'm definitely going to miss you next year, but I don't want to dwell on all that sad stuff, because I feel like celebrating this play, and of course.
Last but not certainly least, I have Miss Katie Biggs. From the top means from the beginning of a scene. While true in the theater world, this particular phrase has been a favorite line from Katie Biggs in Divine Stella Divine last year, and is quickly becoming an inside joke. To start from the top, I met Katie my freshman year in a play called You Can't Take It With You. It struck me immediately that she was truly invested in making every character she was given the best it could possibly be, and I admire that. Acting with Katie has been one of the best high school experiences because she makes being part of performance theater extremely fun and interesting. She is always one of the first ones to jump into an improv game and is always ready and willing to help out behind the scenes. Katie lights up the room
with her bright smile, exuberant energy, creative thinking, and fun-loving personality. Katie has been an ever-constant voice of love and encouragement, giving high fives to the cast in times of success, and hugs and positive thoughts in times of mistakes. My favorite thing about Katie is that she is always smiling and always ready for whatever's next. It has been the greatest pleasure to get to know and love her, and the greatest sadness to let her go. I, for one, won't forget her contagious enthusiasm from Tony's mother in You Can't Take It With You to her brilliant portrayal of Lady Catherine de Bourgh. Unfortunately, we cannot take Katie with us next year, but she will be sorely missed as she starts her from the top, her college career at Wake Forest. But Katie, I know you're going to kill it with every bit of dramatic flair and grace. We love you.